Show. I hope you'll consider making a...
Mary had a little man.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe it.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
When Roe fell, Mrs. Dixon celebrated that. Rights that I've had my whole life are now been ripped away from women and girls in this country.
After hundreds of thousands of signatures in Michigan and a state Supreme Court decision, the right to an abortion in the state will now be decided by the voters.
I am pro-life with exceptions for life of the mother. She will lie to you tonight and tell you that the governor can do something about a constitutional amendment.
Mrs. Dixon is either woefully underinformed about the office she's running for, or she's lying to you. It's that simple. A governor will absolutely impact these rights.
After the debate was over,
I feel like we had a strong debate.
And why do you feel that?
I think we were able to point out a lot of the things that the governor hasn't been honest about.
I know we say every election is the most important of our lifetime. We're not being hyperbolic. It's just that the stakes keep getting higher.
back in Wisconsin, the live crowd was a factor throughout the debate, including during the topic of foreign policy, when Barnes brought up the FBI telling Johnson in 2020 he may have been the target of Russian disinformation. Johnson said he believed it was a political ploy.
The FBI set me up with a corrupt briefing and then leaked that to smear me.
The debate ended with the candidates being asked to say one thing they admire about their opponent.
I do think, the senator has proven to be a family man, and I think that's admirable.
He had, good upbringing. I guess what puzzles me about that is with that upbringing, why is he turned against America? I mean, why does he find the founding of America awful?
Happy Friday, you bastards. Happy Friday. So last night was debate night. I don't, you would never know from the TV news. You would never know. Would you? Did you watch? Did you know? Did anybody tell you? Except for me, I don't know. But there were two debates last night. One started at 7 o'clock, one started at 7:30. The 7 o'clock was a Senate race. And this is what I told you, that there's only 100 people in this entire world, in the entire globe, on the planet, that are United States senators. That is how rarefied the air up there is. 100 people. And there was a debate last night for that gig, for that job in Wisconsin. It was between Mandela Barnes, the lieutenant governor currently, and Ron Johnson, the current United States senator. And, you never would have known that happened. Also, there was a governor's debate last night that started at 7:30 in Michigan. That was Gretchen Whitmer debating conspiracy theorist, Trump-endorsed liar, soft-core porn star, producer of the world's worst campaign commercial ever.
Hey, have you seen the TV ads with the governor talking about the great things she's done for Michigan?
She's a liar. Whitmer can say what she wants, but we live here. Just look around, man.
During COVID, Whitmer locked down businesses like the Owasso Barber and put one woman from Holland in jail. Oh, yeah. 3,000 restaurants closed. And she's pro-business?
Yeah, right.
And what about those higher gas and food prices?
Our schools were closed for almost 2 years. Poor kids.
Speaking of kids, Whitmer says she's gonna work like hell to keep killing babies.
And she put COVID patients in Graham's nursing home.
Graham died alone.
Okay, I'm voting for the other chick. What's her name?
Tudor Dixon.
Hey, let's roll.
Watch out for potholes. Whitmer never kept her promise to fix the damn roads.
Okay, I think the only people who think that the roads aren't fixed in Wisconsin are people who don't live in Wisconsin. Okay, so that was like the world's worst campaign ad, and I've seen so many really bad, stinking bad, horrible bad ads. But that one is just like the oh my God of them all. Okay, so there was a debate last night between Gretchen Whitmer and Tudor Dixon, the producer of that commercial. So it wasn't on the TV. No, I mean, but I will tell you that the debate between Mandela Barnes and Ron Johnson was so epic. It was so epic. It was a live audience debate, okay? If the audience wasn't laughing at Ron Johnson, they were booing Ron Johnson. I mean, he did such a pathetic job of debating. It's almost like he doesn't think, that he needs to do anything except lock up the imbecile vote or lock up the conspiracy theory, the FBI. I hate the FBI. I love the Russian vote. I don't know what he was doing because it was embarrassing. Mandela Barnes actually recalled the time. I hope you do too. In 2020, when the FBI had to sit Ron Johnson down because Ron Johnson didn't give a rat's ass about anything that Biden was trying to do in Ukraine to keep Russians from invading Ukraine forever. He just didn't care about it. And then all of a sudden, the Orange Mussolini decided that he wanted dirt. He wanted dirt on Biden out of Ukraine. And Ron Johnson became very interested in what was going on with the then Vice President Joe Biden and Ukraine. Well, Ron Johnson, and other Republican senators went to Russia on the 4th of July. I believe it was 2020. And Ron Johnson, who is, believe it or not, and this is, if you were watching the hearing yesterday, you understand that the Department of Homeland Security is in charge of the Secret Service, who knew that there was going to be violence on January 6th. Okay. So that said, Ron Johnson is the chairman or was the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee and went to Russia. And in Russia, he was targeted by Russians for Russian propaganda. And a Russian operative, a Russian agent, approached Ron Johnson and filled his head with garbage, bad information, hoping that the head of the Homeland Security, committee would then say that he's got dirt on Joe Biden. Okay, that actually happened. So the FBI had to sit Ron Johnson down and tell Ron Johnson that he was being used by Russian intelligence, that he was targeted by Russian intelligence. And at that time, Ron Johnson admitted that happened. He actually told the Washington Post, the New York Times, he told them that he knew that had happened because the FBI had given him a private briefing, and he conceded that he had, quote, been a target of Russian disinformation. Okay, that said, they're questioning, Ron Johnson was questioning Mandela Barnes' patriotism last night, and Mandela Barnes brought this up in response.
I'm proud of the Ukrainian people showing immense courage in a difficult situation. We need to do everything we can short of American boots on the ground. There's no appetite for it. And Putin also needs to be held accountable. We need to continue to call out his war crimes. We need to up sanctions on Putin. However, we have someone, Senator Johnson, who once praised Putin as a smart guy. Now, if Putin is successful in Ukraine, he's going to encroach on more territory. It'll also be a green light to other autocratic leaders. There was also an instance where Senator Johnson had to be sat down by the FBI and warned that he may be a Russian asset. We cannot trust Senator Johnson to protect democracy abroad because we can't even trust Senator Johnson to protect democracy here at home.
So, of course, Ron Johnson was allowed to reply. And his reply was pretty much, bitch, set me up.
The FBI set me up with a corrupt briefing and then leaked that to smear me. I'm sorry.
All right.
He is referring to corruption with the FBI, which I've been trying to uncover and expose.
All right.
And they laughed at him. That's not a good thing. It's not a good thing when the audience is laughing at you at your debate, and when they're not laughing at you at your debate, they're booing you at your debate, which also happened to Ron Johnson last night. And Ron Johnson is ahead. Is that where we are in America? All you have to do is wrap up the imbecile vote, the conspiracy-minded, I hate the FBI, I hate law enforcement, no one's coming to save you vote, and you win now? Is that it?
all things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Mr. Barnes, you go first. What do you find admirable about your opponent?
Well, no, seriously. I do think, the senator is proven to be a family man, and I think that's admirable. That's absolutely to be respected. He speaks about his family. He's done a lot to provide for them. I absolutely respect that.
Mr. Johnson.
Likewise, I appreciate the fact that Lieutenant Governor Barnes had loving parents, a school teacher, father that worked third shift, so he had good upbringing. I guess what puzzles me about that is, with that upbringing, why is he turned against America? Why does he find the founding of America awful? It's
somehow
it puzzles me.
We did not.
We said something admirable.
Oh my God! It's unbelievable. If they weren't laughing at him, then they were booing him. And this is the guy who wants to return to the United States Senate and represent the state of Wisconsin. I just, for the life of me, cannot figure out what it is that people see in this, guy who's ripe for Russian, disinformation, who is somebody that admits it one day, then lies about it the next day, trashes his opponent as being un-American, when clearly he is un-American. He doesn't give a damn about national security. He gives a damn about getting reelected. That's it. And whatever direct path there is to power, he will take it, even if it includes supporting a guy who lies to the American people to the point where they actually attack the United States Capitol with weapons. He tried to argue with Mandela Barnes about, crime and early release of prisoners. And Mandela Barnes was like, "Are you kidding me? Didn't you guys want the First Step Act? Didn't you guys, empty out jails with Donald Trump's First Step Act? Why are you talking to us about crime?"
It feels like the senator is trying to walk away from his record. Once again, he is bemoaning me for, the acts of the administration. But at the same time, the First Step Act released 2,000 to 3,000 people on parole early. So do you walk away from that? Do you not claim credit for that, for the release of 2,000 to 3,000 people, while at the same time attacking me for it?
You can respond if you want.
Again,
I know you referred to it already. Please, audience, if the audience could please hold on.
What I've seen are the violent criminals your administration released. I had concern about releasing, and we should be getting a report in terms of who was released, but we were told it was going to be very non-violent people who have completely rehabilitated themselves. That's not who released here in Wisconsin.
This is the hypocrisy. He is attacking me for the same thing that he is doing.
Everybody forgot about the First Step Act, didn't you? Yeah, you did. Here's a little exchange about Ron Johnson helping to pass a tax deduction. I don't know if you remember this, in the transfer of wealth, in the only piece of legislation that actually passed through the Republican Congress and was signed off on by Donald Trump, to give people who bought jet aircraft a tax deduction for doing so.
The senator should be so audacious. He fails to mention that taxpayers had to foot the bill for his private plane trips between D.C. and his $3 million mansion in Florida, the vacation home. The 2017 tax plan also gave tax benefits for people who make private plane purchases. Guess who bought a few private planes right after the 2017 tax bill was signed? Senator Johnson's family. We're paying for that. Working class families are footing the bill for millionaire lifestyles, and it needs to stop.
Mr. Johnson, you would have a chance. You also have a 60-second rebuttal if you want to use it.
So that is a total lie. I never was reimbursed for any private jet travel. What I was reimbursed for was actually approved by the Senate Rules and Ethics Committee when I submitted the expense. My children spend some time in Florida. My wife goes down there. I visit them a few weekends. I didn't charge for the plane trip down, but it's within Senate rules to charge for the plane trip back.
He only charged for a one-way private plane trip, and he said they did buy private planes and they did get the tax deduction, and it was in the 2017 tax plan that passed the Republican House, the Republican Senate, and the Republican president signed off on it. And Ron Johnson's family actually did purchase aircraft, private jet aircraft and got a tax deduction. And he's sitting there saying, well, you didn't pay for me to go down to Florida. You only paid for me to come back. So that's a total lie. That's a total lie. And then, Ron Johnson tried to attack Mandela Barnes on the fact that Mandela Barnes is a public servant. He's a lieutenant governor. And, of course, this old, diatribe about how, you never signed a paycheck. I signed paychecks. Well, this exchange was priceless, okay?
He's never signed the front of a paycheck. He doesn't have a clue how to create jobs. He certainly doesn't have a clue how the economy works and how you run a business. He doesn't understand the struggles of small business people just trying to meet payroll, just trying to keep people employed.
Yeah.
So he's happy to grow government and impose government mandates on small businesses, but he will drive them out of business. I'm trying to protect small businesses.
And so we will move. You'll get a rebuttal here.
Senator Johnson is taking a whole lot of credit for his business-in-law.
All right, we will move on.
His business-in-law, because Ron Johnson married it.
The biggest achievement in business was Ron Johnson saying, I do. He married into his business. He didn't start that from the ground up.
All right.
You married it. You didn't start anything from the ground up. You signed the front of a pay. You have no idea. How is a business that's allowed or not allowed, but how is a business that can afford to buy multiple private jets still considered in Ron Johnson's addled brain to be a small business? We're a small business, okay? I am a small business owner, okay? I struggle to make payroll. Okay, I struggle to make sure everybody gets their paycheck every single Friday. What in the hell is he talking about, this Ron Johnson, about small business owners? He has no clue. He has no earthly idea. His wife is, a billionaire, and he married into it. That's just amazing. And what did they do? Then they started talking about the deficit and how Democrats are just so irresponsible on the deficit and the economy and all this money that's going to the middle class in the form of child tax credits, which we can't have. And, of course, remember, Ron Johnson is the senator who wants to vote up or down to renew Medicare and Social Security, as if that's discretionary spending, as if that's a question, as if that's negotiable every single year. Ron Johnson wants to put Social Security and Medicare, the trust fund, on the line every single year. He wants an up or down vote. Now, these are the people that want to get rid of the ACA and the little subsidies that some people qualify for to help them pay for their health insurance. Now, all of a sudden, he's threatening the lives of seniors, disabled. I mean, think about who gets Social Security. Think about who's eligible for Medicare. It's just senior citizens. Social Security, you could be disabled or a senior citizen. And he would like to pull the rug out from under each and every one of those beneficiaries every single year, make everybody hold their breath, while the Republicans decide whether or not that's a worthy thing to be spending money on, or if we should actually be spending money on tax cuts for people who purchase private jet aircraft. Yeah, that's the guy you want in charge of that decision, Ron Johnson, right? Wait, this is so good.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
When I think about Social Security, I think about my grandparents, I think about my parents and other folks who worked hard their entire lives, who paid into a system, who deserve to see the benefit that they have justly earned. And when Senator Johnson talks about making Social Security discretionary spending, that means he's coming for your retirement. And it's odd that you can make the argument about inflation and how costs are increasing, but not support raising the minimum wage. And it's also a shame that instead of making sure the wealthy pay their fair share, you'd rather give them tax deductions, because that's not only how we make Social Security solvent, it's how we strengthen Social Security, making sure that the wealthy pay into this vital program. Now, under my plan, a person making under $400,000 would not see an increase in taxes. And Senator Johnson is going to, again, continue to complain about the deficit, but had no problem adding $2 trillion to the deficit to appease his wealthy donors.
That's exactly what they did. They added $2 trillion to the deficit. Now, this is exactly what we said they would do. And they're doing it because they do it all the time. There's nothing new about this. You didn't have to be, an oracle. You didn't have to be able to see into the future to know that that is what Republicans do. They tell you deficits don't matter as they're giving tax cuts to billionaires and putting it on our tab without pay-fors. And they shove into their tax bills things like tax deductions if you buy a new jet aircraft, okay? And we pay for it. We pay and subsidize their extravagant lifestyle is what we do. And when you say, how are you going to pay for it? They go, deficits don't matter. As soon as we win, as soon as we're the majority, and this is what happens because it's cyclical, they point at us and they say, look at that deficit. Look at $2 trillion deficit. Look at what they added that to our deficit. Donald Trump ran up the biggest deficit in the history of the world. And now they're saying, well, we need to steal the Social Security Trust Fund. And they're going to come after the Medicare Trust Fund, too, because this is what I'm telling you. This is why it's so chaotic in their party. In chaos, as you know, you can steal. And remember, their message is this. They hate the FBI, okay? They hate law enforcement. They beat law enforcement at that rally because law enforcement got in the way of them stealing, right? So they like law enforcement until they're the thieves, until they're the violent ones, until they're not getting their way. Then law enforcement doesn't matter. They will beat law enforcement with Blue Lives Matters flags with spears on the end of them and a stash of weapons on the other side of the Potomac River, right? So they hate the FBI. They hate cops. They hate, any oversight. They don't want to be caught. And so in their world, you need to hate law enforcement. You need to hate the FBI. That's what Ron Johnson is standing there saying. And you need to hate people on Social Security. You need to hate people that qualified for Medicare because they paid into it for 65 of their working years, and now they're eligible to receive the benefit. I mean, it is just so unbelievable. So this is who they are. This is what they want to do. I keep on telling you this. You don't have to believe me. You can actually see what they've done, see what they say, know that Ron Johnson is standing there telling you that he is not for renewing Social Security or Medicare at all. That he would like to vote every single year on whether or not that program continues because he's going to cite the deficit, which they are always responsible for running up because they never pay for anything, ever. Because when they're in charge, deficits don't matter. When we're in charge, Biden has paid down the deficit, almost $1 trillion already. In the Build Back Better, which isn't Build Back Better anymore because it didn't have child tax credits, it didn't have child care, it didn't have universal pre-K, it didn't have paid family leave, it didn't have any family-friendly features in it because the Republicans pulled all of that stuff out, right? The only thing that they wanted was a tranche of money to build hard infrastructure. Why? Well, because they could use that to dole out to people who support them in return. They could give projects in their districts to people who supported them come election time. I mean, that's the quid pro quo. That's the name of the game up there. Okay. And so, it's just like an endless merry-go-round of grift. And that's what they're protecting. But if you look at, the stuff we learned yesterday about who knew what and when was going to happen at the Capitol, about the violence that was totally known to the Secret Service 10 days, 15 days, a month before, 52 different websites were posting. The Secret Service saw all the threats. They understood what was going on. They knew at the Million MAGA March, people brought weapons. They knew that a police officer was injured in the Million MAGA March. They knew that all these people got arrested and that the same people were coming back to it. But the message, the message that we got yesterday, loud and clear by looking at this videotape, was that nobody is coming to save you, right? Nancy Pelosi was making frantic phone calls. She was on her own. Chuck Schumer was calling the Department of Defense. He was calling the Attorney General of the United States. He was telling Bill Barr, why don't you tell your guy to call off the mob? They will listen to him. I mean, this is your law enforcement duty, okay? You're the Attorney General of the United States, and a component of your job is law enforcement. Why don't you go tell Donald Trump to say something to call these people off? And they wouldn't do it. The message was clear. No one is coming to save you. You know what? The message was clear in Uvalde, too. No one was coming to save those kids. The police do not respond anymore. This is the Republican way. This is the chaos. This is what they want. They want one set upon the other. They want us, literally gunning each other down. They want us, fighting in the streets with, our unconcealed weapons. That's what they want. Why? So they can steal. But the message is so clear all over the place. No one's coming to get you. No one's coming to your rescue. Nobody's going to make good on the things that you bought. And when you can't recover any of the contributions you made to Social Security or Medicare, what are you going to do about it? No one's coming to help you. No one. You either, are a billionaire, or you marry it, or somehow you're protected, you're shielded from the awfulness of the middle class, from the awfulness of the wage slave, from the awfulness of having to, pay down your mortgage incrementally, of the awfulness of having to pay through the nose for health care, or pay for pre-K, or pay for, child care, which is, after your, rent payment and your child care payment, what's left? We don't care. We don't care. These are some awful people. Awful. Awful. And every single one of the members of that party, every single one, with the exception of Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney, are down with that. They are all good with nobody's coming to save you. They are good with it. They believe in it. They want us like that. They're just... You want to see something? Tonight there's another debate. Now, I'm going to say that the media will cover this Senate debate. Not last night's, no. But the Georgia one, for some reason, they wouldn't cover Wisconsin last night. But I believe that they will cover Warnock and Herschel Walker tonight in Savannah. The extravaganza in Savannah tonight. And I bet you can watch that. That's crazy.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Mrs. Dixon is either woefully underinformed about the office she's running for, or she's lying to you. It's that simple. A governor will absolutely impact these rights. In fact, the only right abortion is still accessible in Michigan is because of my action. This is a candidate who said a 14-year-old child raped by a family member is a perfect example of why we shouldn't have abortion rights. I've been fighting to maintain the law as it is. That's what I support, Rick. Here's the fact of the matter. To protect our rights, we cannot trust Ms. Dixon.
No, you can't trust her. She's not going to protect your rights, okay? And Gretchen Whitmer does have a live case in front of the Supreme Court to not see the state of Michigan go back to a 1931 law that totally bans, female health care, that totally bans abortion. I mean, this is what Tudor Dixon said, and we played this for you a long time ago because no one could believe she was actually saying that a 14-year-old girl who's raped should have the baby because she knows somebody who was the product of rape, and therefore everybody who's raped needs to have the child.
A 14-year-old who, let's say, is a victim of abuse by an uncle.
Yeah.
You're saying carry that?
Perfect.
No, perfect example. The way that this could be set up is you're protecting that guy, and we've got to get those guys in jail.
That's something else, and I agree. In fact, that guy should be hung, but...
Because we've got this new telemedicine abortion situation,
well, that
which
guy,
happened in this area.
No, it's not a debate because I'm there with you, right here having lunch. 14 years old, she's 4 months pregnant, some hauled her into an alley or walked into her bedroom. You expect her to carry that thing?
Okay.
Yes or no? But I will listen to yes or no and then give me the answer.
Because I know people who are the product. Life is a life for me. That's how it is.
Okay.
That is for me. That's my feeling.
That's fair. You heard it. No exception except the health of the mother.
I mean, she made a choice. Her choice is to be pro-life. Other people are going to make a different choice. That's what choice is about. She wants to mandate her opinion. She wants to say that the way she chose is the way everyone must choose to live. Whatever happened to less government? Government not in your bedroom. Government, shrink it so that it's small enough to drown in a bathtub. Except, when it comes to women. What and that is what they ended up debating over last night. And Gretchen Whitmer obviously prevailed because Tudor Dixon has no earthly idea what she's talking about. She has no earthly idea how to govern. She's never governed in her life. She has no idea. All she knows is she says outrageous, stupid things, and Donald Trump loves it. Why? Why is Donald Trump out there shopping for the Herschel Walkers of the world, for the Tudor Dixons of the world, for the Ron Johnsons of the world? Why is Donald Trump out there shopping for the dumbest or the most pliable or the most bribable or the most malleable, the people whose spines are about as stiff as a weasel's spine, a ferret? Why? Because he's building his own protection goon squad inside the government. And no one is going to come and get you in Trump world. That is what Trump showed you. He will sit there and watch the United States Capitol come under attack from a bunch of miscreants, from a bunch of psychos, from a bunch of conspiracy theorists, from a bunch of people who have been fed an enormous amount of lies by him, and he will watch it on TV. He will watch it on TV while the vice president of the United States acts like the president ought to. And the Speaker of the House acts like the president should have. Now, you know what's really interesting about what we saw on that videotape yesterday? That apparently Alexandra Pelosi was making a documentary, and she understood that there was a threat up there on Capitol Hill during that, certification process. And so she was up there filming, and she filmed the entire 5 hours behind the curtain, behind the scenes. Okay. And the amount of video footage that was new yesterday, that pales in comparison to what is actually out there. Alexandra Pelosi apparently has 5 hours of documentary footage documenting the peril that Republicans and Democrats were in when the Capitol came under attack on January 6th, right? And, it's interesting because Jim Banks and Steve Scalise, which really, this becomes so important now because Steve Scalise is in Alexandra Pelosi's video footage when Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, House and Senate, were trying to get the National Guard to come. And the president of the United States was watching television and wouldn't sign off on the National Guard going up to Capitol Hill. And Nancy Pelosi is talking to Governor Northam, and she's talking to Governor Hogan in Maryland and Virginia. And she's saying, listen, I know that you're in another jurisdiction, and I probably the federal government, probably the president has to sign off on you coming into our jurisdiction, but we can't get him to do that. So what can you do? What can you do? Right? And Steve Scalise is there when these conversations are happening. And yet, after the insurrection, after the violence, after somebody is shot and killed, after police officers are beaten, he actually gets on the TV and says this was all Nancy Pelosi's fault. She didn't call the National Guard, which we now know was a complete and utter lie.
Was Speaker Pelosi involved in the decision to delay National Guard assistance on January 6th?
No.
Those are serious and real questions that this committee refuses to even ask.
Okay, you know what's really interesting? You see that little crowd there? So that's Jim Banks and Kevin McCarthy. And they were all there when Nancy Pelosi was calling the National Guard for help. She was calling everybody and anybody she could think of. Chuck Schumer called, not just Bill Barr, he called the Secretary of Defense. They called everybody.
Thank you, Jim. And Jim Banks just raised some very serious questions that should be answered by the January 6th Commission, but they're not.
Oh.
And they're not for a very specific reason, and that's because Nancy Pelosi doesn't want those questions to be answered. In fact, she took the unprecedented step of kicking Jim Banks and Jim Jordan off of the January 6th committee because they were going to ask those questions that a lot of people would like the answers to.
This cannot be just we're waiting for so-and-so. We
There's
need them
Steve
there
Scalise.
now, whoever you got.
You also have troops. This is Steny Hoyer. Troops.
Okay, so we have a little bit of time to make that decision.
Andrews Air Force Base.
All right.
Other military bases.
Thank you.
We
Thanks,
need
Paul.
active
Bye.
duty National Guard.
How soon in the future can you have the place evacuated, pulled, cleaned out?
Right there.
I don't want to speak for the leadership that's going to be responsible for executing the operation, so I'm not going to say that because they're on the ground and they're the experts.
Well, just pretend for a moment it was the Pentagon or the White House or some other entity that was under siege. And let me say, you can logistically get people there as you make the plan.
They're standing right there as she's begging for National Guard. And they have the temerity, the nerve, the shameless nature of them to stand there now and say the reason why they kicked Jim Banks and Jim Jordan off of the select committee is because they were going to ask the tough questions. Is Nancy Pelosi responsible for the delay in the National Guard? No, the President of the United States was, and you know that because you were there. We didn't know that they were there until yesterday. They are unsuitable, unfit to be near power. They are unsuitable and unfit to address the American people from an official office of any sort. They are liars. They are posers. They are disingenuous, creeps. Every one of them. Every one of the Republican members of the House. Every single last one of them. They all know the truth. They've always known the truth because they were there. They know how many phone calls were made. They know how they begged for somebody to come. They know how hard they begged for the DOD, for the Department of Defense, for governors in other states to send their National Guard components. And they couldn't. They weren't allowed to because the President of the United States said no. Now think about it this way. Everybody knew Mike Pence's life was in danger because the information about hang Mike Pence, the gallows and all that, that was a precursor. That happened ahead of time. Secret Service knew. Everybody knew, right? That Mike Pence was going to be a target that day. If Nancy Pelosi was such a piece of dirt, the way Republicans portray her, wouldn't she have been celebrating that Mike Pence be killed? Because she would be next in line for the presidency. Oh, God, these people are just so, I don't know how they are still in power in any way, shape, or form. How have they not been rejected?
Mary had a little man. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
Thinking about who to vote for in November? Remember this. Every Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate, every Republican candidate for Congress, everyone has said they will support Donald Trump for president if he is the Republican nominee. Even after all we've learned, the insurrection, the allegedly stolen national security documents, the crazy conspiracy theories, every Republican will support Donald Trump if he is the nominee. So if you vote for these Republicans, you are voting to help put Donald Trump back in power. You are voting for 4 more dangerous years of American betrayal, chaos, bigotry, and hate. If you vote for these Republicans, you are voting to help pardon the men and women who attacked our democracy. This November, the choice is simple. It's America or Trump.
Oh! That's your choice because, listen, these Republicans are responsible for chaos that you saw, chaos that you can watch videotape of. But they're also going to bring more chaos if they, take the House and the Senate and the presidency. I mean, the amount of just off the hook, out of control damage that will be done to people who not just get Social Security, not just get Medicare, but people who get a subsidy to purchase, health insurance. I mean, anything at all. There's no help. There will be no help for anybody except billionaires, except for the people that are so anti-American, so un-American, that they are for a person who wants to destroy our government, wants to destroy democracy, wants to destroy the vote, wants to destroy women, wants to destroy privacy, wants to destroy the media. The media is the enemy of the people. No, 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 no. The Republican Party, today's Republican Party, are the enemy of the people. They are the enemy of Social Security. They are the enemy of Medicare. They are the enemy of health care. They are the enemy of democracy. They are the enemy of voting. They are the enemy of women. They are the enemy of children. They are the enemy of any family that, is out there trying to get, by. They're against minimum wage. They're against unions. They're against collective bargaining. I mean, there's nothing that the middle class does or needs or wants or has to have that the Republicans are for. Nothing. There is nothing. Not one thing. Not one thing. And it's really interesting because I would love for you to be watching these debates. I would love for people to, be able to just flip it on and watch it and see what's going on in various states with various Republican candidates who are facing, extremely good Democratic candidates or incumbents. I would love... Listen, in Nevada, this is really interesting. So you have this guy Laxalt, whose name is so familiar because his father was beloved and very famous in Nevada, blah, blah. And he's running for Senate against the incumbent Democrat, Catherine Cortez Masto, sorry. And his family, 14 members of his family, just like Herschel Walker, his ex-wives, his children, just like Paul Gosar's sisters and brothers. 14 of Laxalt's family members have said, please do not elect our brother. Please do not elect our cousin. Please do not elect, this man. He's not qualified to be in the Senate. This is going on everywhere. 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 And you know what? As far as I can tell, this debate tonight in Savannah, this Warnock-Walker, I don't think it's going to be on national TV. I don't know. I don't see it on anybody's schedule. I could be wrong. Maybe somebody could figure it out for me. But I think that we're going to have to YouTube it on a local Savannah or a local Atlanta TV station. I think that's how we're going to have to watch it. This is unbelievable. You got a man named Herschel Walker who the bar is set so low for him. He actually is lowering expectations for himself by getting out there and saying, I'm not that smart. Literally telegraphing that. Literally saying that. I'm just not that smart. Warnock, he's a preacher. I mean, isn't Herschel's whole deal that he's más Christian than any other person on that stage? And yet he's running against the senior pastor at the Ebenezer Baptist Church, which is Martin Luther King Jr.'s church. And he's saying that you shouldn't listen to Warnock because he's a pastor. And I'm not that smart. Lowering expectations. So the bar is so low for Herschel Walker. And his only duty tonight is going to be not to trip over that low bar and smash his face into the ground on the stage. That's it. I think if he does that, if he manages not to trip over the low bar and bang, bash his head in, he wins. That's crazy. That's insane. When you pick a candidate, why not pick the best one? Why not pick the one that's smart? Why not pick the one that's, a pastor if that's your thing, if that's your area of concern? Why not pick the moral one? Why not pick the one with ethics? Why not pick the one that isn't a conspiracy theorist? Holy crap, man. I just, why not pick the one that isn't into mandating that, 10-year-olds and 14-year-olds have babies when they're impregnated by their uncle or their daddy or some guy lurking in the alleyway, which is what she said. It's, perfect example for her to show how, she values life. Somebody's raped and, you have to have that baby because that is who I am. That is what I choose. And her choice has to be your choice because you don't have a choice. I don't get it. I don't get it. For a while there, I thought I got it. I thought it was just pure, unadulterated racism. But we are so past that now. We are so past that. We know who the racists are. We understand who they are. We get what their radio shows are about. We get what their platforms are about. We get what Gab is about. It's an anti-Semitic platform. It's pro-Nazi. I understand. There's that. But what about the rational, normal, people who don't go on those platforms? Literally thinking there's a choice here. A choice between Herschel Walker and Reverend Warnock? I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it. Kurt in Ohio.
Good afternoon, Randy, and thank you for taking my call.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hey, real quickly, that Herschel Walker, Raphael Warnock thing, that'll go down if Herschel Walker wins over the moral Christian man. That'll go down like Ronald Reagan being rode into the White House on the backs of Christians to unseat the most Christian man who ever lived in the White House.
I think Jimmy Carter would be that.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason I called, though, is I was listening to Tom Hartman later in the afternoon before your show, and this caller, Norma from Alabama, called and made a great argument about Social Security and what would happen if they take Social Security away. As you know, Social Security is a gold standard of income for many retirees in this country. And if you take away that Social Security, that means they're not going to have the income to borrow against getting a loan to redo a roof on their home or doing something to update their bathrooms to make it more accessible for aging and disabled people. And people need to ask the questions, are you willing to take in your elders if they lose their home? Are you willing to pay for your elders' health care if they lose their health care? Are you willing to pay for your elders' food if they go hungry? Are you willing to pay for your elders' utilities when the gas, the electricity, and the water are turned off? Those are things people need to be asking these people that are thinking of voting for Republicans. And by the way, I hear the music. I voted for Tim Ryan this morning.
Oh, yay. Good for you. I mean, honestly, is there even a question about which party is off the rails with, creating a new class of poverty, a new demographic to live in abject poverty?
All things Randy at RandyRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi shown fleeing the U.S. Capitol as it was under attack on January 6th. The videos captured by her daughter, Alexandra Pelosi, a documentary filmmaker.
We have got to finish the proceedings or else it will have become tricky.
She provided some of her footage to the January 6th Select Committee, who played clips in their hearing Thursday. But in the roughly hour of additional footage obtained exclusively by CNN, we see lawmakers transforming Fort McNair, a military base 2 miles away, into a command center to communicate with Vice President Mike Pence and others, even considering reconvening the congressional proceedings at the military base.
We're being told it could take days to clear the Capitol and that we should be moving everyone here to get the job done. We're at which has facilities for the House and the Senate to meet. We'd rather go to the Capitol and do it there, but it doesn't seem to be safe.
While Pence evacuated the Senate chamber, he stayed behind in the Capitol with his security detail.
I worry about you being in that Capitol, though. Don't let anybody know where you are.
I'd like to know a good goddamn reason why it's been denied.
Then Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer shouting at Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy after hearing a rumor Trump blocked the National Guard going to the Capitol.
Please move. The whole Capitol is rampage. There's a picture of someone sitting in this chair of the Senate. We've all been evacuated. There have been shots fired. We need a full National Guard component now. She said it was not denied. I'm going to call up the effing Secretary of DOD.
A group of lawmakers, including Republican leaders Representative Kevin McCarthy and Senator Mitch McConnell, calling Acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller, urging a faster response.
Getting there in one hell of a hurry, you understand?
Got you loud and clear, leader.
And Pelosi and Schumer also confronting Acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen in a heated phone call.
No. Please answer my question. Answer my question.
Senator, I'm going to do everything I can do.
Does that include asking the president to get these people who are followers of hers to leave the Capitol?
Finally, word coming from Pence that it was safe to return.
I'm literally standing with the chief of the U.S. Capitol Police. He just informed me their best information is that they believe that the House and the Senate will be able to reconvene in roughly an hour.
Good news.
Which they did just after 8 p.m.
Let's get back to work.
I mean, how sick and twisted is all of that? It's beyond the pale. I need to correct myself. I said that Chuck Schumer called Bill Barr the Attorney General. At that point, Bill Barr had resigned. He resigned on December 23rd, remember? Right before Christmas. I forgot. It's Jeffrey Rosen was the acting Attorney General on January 6th, so I am correcting myself because I got it wrong. And that's what you do. If you have any integrity, that's what you do. Anyway, so, no one is coming to get you is the message. It is the message loud and clear. No one came to get those kids at Uvalde. No one came to get those kids at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, right? The guy that was supposed to go into the school at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, he stayed outside the whole time. He stayed outside. Uvalde, what do we have? Hundreds of officers. I don't know how many. It was like 91, 96, 159. No one went into the... I mean, it's just... And the Capitol, the president told the National Guard not to respond. Not to respond. No one is coming to get you. This is Somalia, not America. This is unbelievable that we had a president of the United States who did any of these things, let alone all of them. And today he was raging in a 14-page, they subpoenaed him yesterday. And I told you the chances of Donald Trump actually, answering that subpoena is like, it's zero, it's zilch, it's goose egg, donut squat, nothing. Bannon never responded to his congressional subpoena. Now that actually got referred. You know how this goes, okay? So in order to be held in contempt of Congress, not only does the committee have to vote, any committee, the Judiciary Committee, in this case, the Select Committee, then it has to go to the full House for a vote, and then the full House will send that referral to the Department of Justice. And then the Department of Justice will decide whether or not it wants to prosecute, right? So all of that happened with regard to Steve Bannon. All of that happened. And where is Steve Bannon today? Doing his show. He was held in contempt of Congress. He was found guilty of being in contempt of Congress. He will be sentenced next week, this coming week. Today's Friday, next week. He will be sentenced. Let's see what he gets. But the president is, never going to show up. First of all, when you vote, if you vote to give the majority to the other people, the people that did this, the people that say no one's coming to get you, the people that are cool with that they don't bother to go into the school, they don't bother to go into the Capitol, they don't bother to go into the high school. Nothing is worth their lives, nothing at all. Not your life, not your kid's life, not your senator's life, not your House member's life. Oh, and then on the backside, remember Steve Scalise and Kevin McCarthy, they're going to lie. And Jim Banks, who were all there when all this was going on. They were right there in that little huddle. They were right there in that circle. They know exactly how many calls were made. They have the nerve to stand there and say, See, they wouldn't accuse her, so they asked a question. Very Tucker Carlson. Very, very Tucker Carlson. Was Nancy Pelosi responsible for the delay?
Was Speaker Pelosi involved in the decision to delay National Guard assistance on January 6th?
No. No, you little pipsqueak. And you know that because you were freaking there. But the lying, I mean, just did they think that they would never, ever, ever, ever get caught? In a snapshot, a photo, a video. Everybody's got a cell phone. And apparently Alexandra Pelosi was creating a documentary that day. 5 hours of footage. They're all in it. They're all in it. Unfreaking believable. Unacceptable. Un-American. But if you vote for that party that lies to your face, the party that has so much disrespect for your intellect, that party that has so much disrespect for character and integrity and dignity and yours, all of that, they will either disband the January 6th Select Committee completely or appropriate it and begin to lie about how this was all Nancy Pelosi's fault, as you can see. As you can hear, as you can see them say, was Nancy Pelosi responsible? No, Nancy Pelosi was not responsible. The Capitol Police is not a large police force. Just like Uvalde, the town of Uvalde's police force, what was it, like 6 or 9 people? But the Department of Public Safety, the huge, huge Department of Public Safety, they responded, but they didn't go in the school. They stood outside. Yeah. And then what happens? Well, the same people that wouldn't go in the school get hired to protect another school so that they don't lose their jobs. What a ruse. What a shell game they got going on with you and your kids and our safety and our democracy.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Secret Service said they have dissuaded him from coming to Capitol Hill. They told him they don't have the resources to protect him here. So at the moment he is not coming, but that could change.
Oh, he comes, I'm going to punch him out. This is my mom.
I would pay to see
I've
that.
been waiting for this, for trespassing on the Capitol grounds. I'm going to punch him out, and I'm going to go to jail, and I'm going to be happy.
Now, if anybody knows Nancy Pelosi does not speak like that, okay? Nancy Pelosi is not a pugilist type of, legislator. She's a consensus builder. She's a uniter. She's somebody that, can make the Democrats, which is like herding cats, come to agreement and stay together when everything else fails. That's who Nancy Pelosi is. That is how she is a leader. It's how she, controls, or doesn't control, but influences Democrats to stay together for the benefit of the good and not sacrifice everything for the perfect. So to see her say that she hopes that Donald Trump comes up there and trespasses on the Capitol and tries to interrupt the certification, a legitimate function, a legitimate constitutionally mandated session of Congress, that she will consider that to be, trespassing on the Congress. It's worse. It's actually the most. It's got the longest sentence of everything that he's been, looked at for charges. Disrupting, an official proceeding of Congress is like 20 years. 20 years. But she says, let him come here. Let him trespass on Congress. I'll punch him. I'll punch him in the face. I'll go to jail, but I'll be happy. That's a boss lady. That's somebody that's really, really pissed. They were also pissed. Chuck Schumer was pissed. Pence was pissed. They were all, and Pence is still a no-show. He's still a no-show. I just, the bullying or whatever the power of Donald Trump is, whether it's blackmail or money or promises of help in the future or delivering, the imbecile vote or the racist vote or the conspiracy vote. I don't know what he's got on these people. I honestly don't. I mean, Ron Johnson, it's pretty easy to know that Ron Johnson is he's been approached by Russians. He's been targeted by Russians as being, somebody that they could flip, somebody that they could give disinformation to, somebody that would spread disinformation, misinformation, somebody that would, perpetrate lies within the United States of America, whatever. But the rest of them, I mean, it is mesmerizing. It is mesmerizing. Now you got Carrie Lake. By the way, Carrie Lake is actually out there now saying that Arizona, pay attention. Carrie Lake is saying that if she wins and she becomes your governor, not only is she a conspiracy theorist election denier, okay, somebody that will make you live the way she chooses for you to live. But she's also for Arizona seceding from the union. Arizona should secede. Now, you know that Arizona gets more federal dollars than I think any other state, including Mississippi, Wyoming, and Montana. Mm-hmm. So 46% of your funding comes from the federal government. Good luck to you. Go with God. You want to secede? Go with God. Because you will lose 46% of your funding. 46% of your treasury just out the window. Isn't Arizona a place where people go to retire? Isn't that a place where people are on Social Security? Isn't that a place where people are on Medicare? Okay, just saying. Just know what you're doing. Just know. Rich in Michigan.
Hey, Randy.
Hey.
Number one, I got to say Gretchen Wilmore is awesome.
Whitmer.
She has helped me out a number of times.
Gretchen Whitmer. There is no Wilmer.
Whitmore?
Whitmer.
Okay, excuse me. Anyways, the Michigan medical marijuana program was trying to rip me off $40. They charged me $80 because I wanted to become a sponsor for my daughter because she wasn't old enough yet to get to a dispensary, and I didn't want her on opioids. She has not only bad feminine problems, she has a deformed vertebrae in her lower back. And they didn't send me a medical card with her information on the back of my card to be her caregiver. Then a month later they sent her card, and I said, you were supposed to send me the card. She cannot use her card. And then I ended up calling the governor because they wanted to try to make me pay another $40. And
how old is your daughter?
$40 back.
How old is your daughter?
She's 20. She'll be 21 in December. And like I said, I didn't want her on opioids. And they were going to put her on opioids. And I've been growing cannabis for about 45 years. I've been on medical cannabis ever since the program started.
So why do you need a card?
And I supply and grow for others.
So why do you need a card?
Pardon?
Why do you need a card for a dispensary if you grow?
Because to go to a medical dispensary or to grow in Michigan right up until last year, you had to have a medical card. Otherwise, you could not be a grower, and you would have to buy this stuff from a dispensary that you didn't know what it was, where it came from, or whatever.
Well,
and like I said, my background, I know quite a bit.
Okay. Well,
and the stuff they have at the
that's not
dispensaries is garbage.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well.
So, anyways, like I said, I wanted to help her. And then just for a quick little tootsie on the end, I used to work for Betsy DeVos at Welsh Auditorium, and she busted up the union. I was a security guard there, and I lost my job along with a whole bunch of other people. And she's not a very good person. So anybody that works for Betsy DeVos, like Tudor and whatever, are just rotten. Rotten to the core.
All right. Well, thank you. So I have so many things that I could say about all the things he said, but let it go is what I'll do. David in North Miami Beach.
Randy, Your Majesty.
Yes. Oh, we're up against a break. Can you say what you...
As you said, the news has been canceled. At 1 o'clock, they were still covering the Parkland shooter, which is supposed to Nicole Sandler. And so my dad, The Amazing Wild, had trouble watching it. It was on a backup channel that was hard to find if you have no cable and no easy internet.
Right. Well, I mean, you can't see anything without cable or internet, so I don't know how in the world you get news without cable or internet or satellite or dish or something. But I think that the debate will be on C-SPAN tonight, C-SPAN 1, I'm guessing, the main channel. Do not miss that. I know it's Friday night, but hell, that's going to be one for the record books.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
How are you?
Oh, good. How are you?
Take out an order for Bass.
So I got everything here, okay?
Everything here. What are we?
Let me ring you in right now. Do I get you get a discount.
Oh!
Public service?
Public service.
Yeah, let me 50% off.
Oh.
I mean, right?
Da-da-da.
Why not? $16.45.
$45, and the next person that comes in, give it to them free.
Yeah? All right?
Okay? For $60.
I'm going to keep this one here. That won't be for the next person.
All right.
Or keep the tip.
I'll put it here. $3. 55
Chicken
cents. Thank you so
quesadilla.
much.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Paying the quesadilla forward. I mean, it's one way to govern. The other way is, to lie to your face and to say he's building a wall. Or some such thing. The other is to buy quesadillas for everybody. You choose, is what it is. Chris in Illinois.
Oh, yes. Hi. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I just was referencing back to the abortion issue, which is such a hot button on every level. But I was thinking, just sort of, spitballing here, that if basically a 12-year-old child is forced to give birth and is expected to raise the baby, she's a child, but she's expected to raise the baby, what would stop them from saying, or somebody from insisting that she is performing adult role here, so she should be entitled to drive a car unsupervised or purchase alcohol or cigarettes unsupervised? And I just, maybe it's, too out there, but it just seems to me that I guess I was thinking back towards when the guys were getting drafted and they were expected to die for their country at 18, but they couldn't drink.
Yeah,
So
or vote. Or vote.
Or vote, right.
Yeah, it is one of those. We're being drafted into, birthing things, and we're not able to, be adults yet. Listen, their version of our lives is so perverted, and it's so bizarre. That we have no privacy anymore. We have no rights. Things that we've relied on for 50 years out the window. Mm-hmm. You have somebody that's running for governor in Arizona who wants to secede from the union. Okay, what is it?
That's crazy.
1860.
That's the first time I've heard about this.
Yeah. What is it? 1860 now? I mean,
yeah.
It's just wow. Well, if it's 1860, we have open borders.
Yeah, well, because I was just thinking also, taking it a step further then, does that mean they would expect that, 12 or 14-year-old child then to go out and get a job to pay for her Pampers and her formula?
Of course.
And then bye-bye child labor laws.
Of course. Okay. Of course.
Because Newt Gingrich was just, it wasn't that long ago when he was saying, those poor students, who aren't really entitled to education, they need to get out there and be janitors.
Right. Remember that? That's right.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Good memory. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Brother David.
turning the clock backwards, sister. That's what they're trying to do.
Duh.
Boy, it's been a fraught week. Besides the losses of Judy Tenuta, Robbie Coltrane, and Dame Angela
Judy
Lansbury.
Tenuta.
Right?
I know. That was really sad. She died of ovarian cancer, the silent killer.
And where would there be any medical or assistance, etc., for her if the side that thinks they're going to turn us back into ancient Rome gets in? As I said in the chat room, I watched both of those debates. In both cases, the Democrat cleaned the incumbent Republican's clock, or the incumbent Democrat cleaned the incoming Republican's clock. I wouldn't miss Walker versus Warnock for all the money in the world. But the thing that's left me...
My favorite moment of the debates, though, has got to be Ron Johnson saying the bitch set me up. I could not believe he said the FBI set him up. I couldn't. It was
self-evident. Just naked blood. They're not hiding anything. Claire McCaskill was right. La Pala is a badass. And the thing that from yesterday's presumably final for the moment season closer of the best television show of 2022, the thing that disturbed me was how far in advance of the actual election itself this plan, this great lie, was set in place.
Yeah.
And there's no reason to think that it's not going to happen. So I'm telling everyone who can vote by mail now, do it. Register, vote, because Rovember is just around the corner. But the only way it works,
it's not just Roe that's on the ballot. It's Social
Of
Security.
course.
It's
so
everything.
The whole package. It's
everything.
The country.
Everything. No one will come and get you. I mean, really, no one will. It is so. It's been such a creeping crud into you're on your own, except for women who need the government in their pulpits, in their something else with a P word, okay? Right? That's where the government belongs. Other than that, no policing, no FBI, no drug intervention. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to. I mean, these people are so irresponsible. They are so bizarre. They are so, into chaos and confusion and conspiracies and lying and cheating and stealing that, all bets are off. All bets are off.
Absolutely. So all we have left is us. And there are still more.
People have got to understand that voting is real power. It's real power. That's why all the money gets spent on elections, right? It's because the people power is what they're afraid of. So, you if you reject their ideas for, doing away with privacy, doing away with Social Security, doing away with gay marriage, doing away with, Medicare, doing away with subsidies, doing away with, we already lost the child tax credit. But if you don't take them seriously right now, like 25 days before the election, and you don't say, I'm rejecting that entire platform of I'm on my own when I paid in, or I'm on my own when, I pay my property taxes. The police are supposed to go make sure my kid is safe at school when there's a shooter in there, not stand outside. If you don't do that now, it's done. It's done.
It's done. It seriously is done. As for Arizona, I just want to look at Brexit and see how well that worked out for the UK.
Right.
There are still more of us. And
there
are coming.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's right. I hope they come. I hope they vote. I hope everybody gets it. I hope everybody realizes this is crunch time. This is it. This is the David and Goliath moment where they think that they're Goliath, and quite frankly, they're not. They're not. We are. We are. You've got to stop letting them twist the truth to make you believe that they have all the power. You have all the power. I have all the power. Every voter has power that every incumbent is terrified of. Terrified of. Donna in Washington.
Hello, Randy.
Hi.
Oh, I love Brother David.
Yeah, he's the best.
Hearing him on your show.
I know.
One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was Michael Flynn's brother. Remember the big shakeup in the Pentagon just weeks before January 6th?
Yeah, I do.
And Charles Flynn miraculously became the head of the National Guard there. And so it makes me wonder why they did Republicans, Rumpty Dumpty, with the Vindman brothers, because they think the Vindman brothers were as shady as the Flynn brothers. And I think Charles Flynn needs to be called on the carpet. Michael Flynn needs to have his ass court-martialed. I can say that.
Yeah, he does. He does. He absolutely does. And Chris Miller was the acting Secretary of Defense that day. Why was a guy acting? I mean, Trump said to us, he showed you what he was doing. He actually said he liked acting better, right? Because it was easier to fire them and they didn't need to be confirmed by the Senate. He could pick any dummy, right? And
exactly.
So that's exactly what he did. So Esper left. We got the acting Secretary of Defense, Chris Miller, who put out a memo. I called it the smoking gun and tweeted it out, way, way before January 6th, that he had ordered the National Guard not to be armed that day to show, right, to do traffic duty. And that was it. And then it played out right in front of our face, but we didn't know that it was being filmed. Now we can see it. And
Indeed.
Yes, and they're all calling, going, send in the National Guard, send in the National Guard. And they're all saying, no, we can't. The president won't sign off. And the crazy thing is they were in D.C., so D.C. doesn't have a governor.
Exactly. It's not a state.
Right.
It's a district.
Right. The president is in charge of the D.C. National Guard, and he said no. He said no. Die. Die on the Hill. Literally, die on the Hill. Hang Mike Pence. Kill Nancy Pelosi. You were looking at the order of succession right there. Those are the next two in line. Process that. Own that. Know that. And then vote against that. That cannot happen ever again. Here. And it will.